My guest on this 94.7 FM The Word Book Club is Tim Sanford, who wrote the book Losing Control and Liking It. Now, this is a book to parents, how to set your teenager, and yourself free. You've been, if you're a parent of a teenager, you raised that kid from all the time when he and she was an infant, and you did everything for them, and then you exhibited some strong control over them as they grew up, but suddenly they're teenagers. And I know suddenly, it just seems suddenly to you, but over a period of time, suddenly they're teenagers and you're still in control. Well, how do you handle that? Tim Sanford is the guest of the book Losing Control and Liking It, published by Tyndale. And Tim, I want to welcome you to the 94.7 FM The Word Book Club. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, it's good to be here.
You have been the father of teenagers, but they're no longer teenagers, right?
That's correct. They're both adults now, for sure.
Do you, like me, look back and say, gee, I wish I had done this earlier, or did you have it all together when your kids were teenagers?
No, I did not have it all together, and yes, a lot of those books are written from life lessons learned looking backwards, going, I wish I would have known this,
Yeah.
or had it figured out, or been able to put it, into words.
Yeah.
When I was being a parent of a teenager, yes.
What's your background, just so we can position who you are relative to the conversation and especially the topic?
I'm a licensed professional counselor. I've had private practice for 37 years, just recently closed it. And one of my areas of expertise, both in private practice as well as a hospital setting, residential treatment settings, has been the area of working with adolescents. So having raised adolescents myself, and then also working with adolescents. Prior to that, I was a youth pastor, worked with teens and collegiates for a number of years as well.
So you're well qualified.
Well, as far as life experience goes, yes.
Now, I grin as I say that. Everybody knows that the teenager wants to escape parental control, and often, I don't know about your childhood, I can speak from my childhood, often the teenager goes to great lengths to make that escape. I guess everybody's on a continuum in that regard, but not every parent wants to let them escape, right?
Well, the escape, I'm going to rephrase the word a little bit. Rather than escape, it's a launching, and you can't just, when they turn 18 or 21 or 64, whatever you decide, they're instantly launched. That's a growing, learning process. And so we need to start launching them early, let them have trial runs, let them go, come back, so that when they are 18 or whatever age that they are, and they're launched finally, they have some experience under their belt and they can fly because their wings are well practiced.
Your book starts out by talking to parents who are getting too much of a grip. You use that term, too much of a grip. That certainly is in contradistinction to the launching pad.
Well, it is, and there's a couple reasons why parents tend to, as the adolescents get a bit older and they start spreading their wings, the parent tends to clamp down a little bit. One is, well, the adolescent isn't really all that experienced, and they can make some very big blunders and mistakes. I mean, that's the truth. And as a parent, I don't want them to make mistakes that may last their lifetime. Yeah. So there is a legitimate concern. On the same side of it, though, there's also parents that take it personal of, if my kid makes a mistake, that means I'm a bad parent. And so they're protecting their own image whether they're aware of it or not. It's more about them and their image and what will people think of them, as opposed to what's best for my teenager.
That's really a good point. And so, while the book is about parenting teenagers, the parent's got to pretty much know himself or herself also to figure out when he or she is holding on too tightly and why.
Well, exactly. And one of the key things in human behavior, and you don't need to be a therapist to understand this, is we always do things for reasons. So if a parent is grabbing on too tightly, there's a reason behind that. And so it's not an external reason, it's an internal reason. Am I afraid of being a failure as a parent? Am I afraid of my heart getting hurt because my son or my daughter gets hurt? What's the reason behind it? Is it for a sense of arrogance and control and power? Or is it simply a sense of, I've been taught in church my whole life that if I'm a good parent, I make sure my kids behave. What's the reason behind that? And get to that so that I can understand myself better.
I don't know if this is in the scope of the book. I have read the book, and I appreciated it very much. Like I told you, I wish I knew this 40 years ago when my kids were teenagers. But do you deal with we'll be talking about the holders, tossers, grabbers, and folders in just a couple minutes. But so I guess maybe there's an answer to my own question in your dealing with the parental styles. But do you deal in your book about how parents view themselves and what they can uncover about themselves that would make them, grab a hold to be a grabber? Be a holder?
I don't talk about that a whole lot. A lot of that's going to be in kind of their upbringing in their childhood and things that either were done in a good, healthy wise or not so. I do make a real clear distinction, the difference between control, though, and influence, because we need to clarify our terms and define our terms. When we talk about control here on the broadcast, what I'm talking about is that you are the only variable to the outcome, okay? It's only you, it's you only, it's only up to you. Influence, because parents do have a lot of influencing power. And I don't want parents just to think, well, I lost control, so now I just sit here and whine and moan. No, it's letting go of the control that you don't have really and connecting with the influencing power that you have. So control is when you are the only variable to the outcome. Influence is when you're one of several variables to the outcome. So you're not the only one. And a lot of times somebody else who has some influence to the outcome is your own teenager. So it's letting go of the control you really don't have that you want to have, or the illusion that you have, and holding on to the influencing power that you really do have. And that comes back to, okay, how comfortable am I as a parent with actually the truth of not having as much control as I wish?
Yeah, I saw in the reading of the book the real core issue is control versus influence.
Yes.
And a teenager is wanting more control within himself, within his own sphere. The parent many times wants to hang on to the control for the reasons that you say, some of which they may be blind to. But the influence that you have, how you exercise that influence. Let's say that the parent who is watching us or listening to us is really making a kind of a self-analysis here and says, I am seeking more control than influence, and I need to change that. As I read about control versus influence, I thought, well, the influence you have with your teenager in some ways presupposes the way you prepared that teenager when he was a child, right? I mean, it's kind of the end of a continuum.
Well, exactly. And again, we have, first of all, here in the U.S., we worship control.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we go to church or whether we don't, it doesn't matter. We worship control. So think about it for a minute. Your car has what? Cruise control. The building in which you work has climate control. You know, if you work on an assembly line, we have quality control. We're control freaks from the very get-go. And so we think we have a right to it. We think God deserves to give it to us. And so from the very, I mean, try to control a 2-year-old. Try to make an 18-month-old eat peas if they really don't want to. Mm-hmm. From the very beginning, we have to realize we have a lot less control than we wish. And the only thing you really, really have control over is yourself. That's it. Yeah. And when you try to control another person, now you become a manipulator. It's a harsh word. It's true, though. Yeah. You're trying to manipulate the outcome for another person to behave and act and control that outcome.
And so the beginning, if I could kind of read into this a little bit, the beginning point for what you're suggesting, losing control and liking it. I love the title, Losing Control and Liking It, and then how to set your teen and yourself free. Yes. So the beginning point for a parent is to say, yeah, I have this innate desire to control. My teenager does not want to be controlled. I've got to admit that, and I've got to learn how to let go of the control, realizing I can control nobody but myself, but I certainly can influence my teenager.
Well, exactly. And I turn to the parents and go, do you like being controlled? Would you like it if your teenager controlled you? Of course, the parents would go, well, of course not. And so if we want to turn political, do you want the government to control? See, none of us like to be controlled. So why do you think your teenager will like it? Yeah. They're going to revolt just like you revolt when it comes time to vote. Oh. And we don't want that. And that's why the only person you can control is you. Now, the problem with influence is you can't guarantee the outcome. Yeah. And it's not yours to control the outcome. God doesn't expect you as a parent to make sure that your child turns out right. I've worked with enough teenagers and enough parents down through my 30-something years in therapy, and then how many ever years before that as a youth leader and as a college minister. I've seen parents who did it well. They did it right. I mean, none of us are perfect. Thank goodness we don't have to be. Yeah. They did it right. They did it well. And their child still chose poorly because that's the control that they have. Mm-hmm. So God doesn't expect you to make sure you guarantee a positive outcome. That is on your teenager's shoulders, not yours as the parent.
So that having been said, I'm speaking with Tim Sanford, and the book is Losing Control and Liking It, How to Set Your Teen and Yourself Free, published by Tyndale. So that having been said, you parents can come to a conclusion that, yeah, I need to release control, but you're afraid that they're going to go over a cliff, and we all have that fear. The book really gives us 4 parental styles that I think are great, that really can help the parent learn how to kind of back off from the control and do a little self-evaluation. You talk about holders, tossers, grabbers, and folders. I'm reading this and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that with my kids, I'm thinking back 30 years, Yeah. Okay, all right, this is me. I wish that was me. Describe for us these 4 parental styles.
Well, it's in a form of a grid. So let me go down this. The first part is there's 2 columns up and down. The first column is what you can control. The second column is what you obviously can't control. And then horizontally, there's two bars here. The first bar, what you take responsibility for, what you own and respond to, and then what you don't take responsibility for. So that's the grid, the 4 parts here. So when you can control yourself and you take responsibility for yourself, which would be upper left-hand corner in this grid, that's the holder. You're owning it. It's my fault, I own it, and it's what I can do. So I'm choosing to speak up. I'm choosing to be quiet. I'm choosing to ground you. I'm choosing these things. And that is I'm holding what really is mine. This is mine to control, and I'm trying to do a good job of it. That's where we want our teenagers to be. They may not always do it real well to start with, but that's where we want them to be. And here's an important part. When I'm a holder, that always builds my confidence, because confidence is in direct proportion to honesty. If I made the mistake, I own it and say, I made the mistake, it's my fault, I'll buck up and I'll clean up the mess. Okay, that's up here in this corner. Now let's go straight down. I can control it, but I'm not going to take the responsibility for it. This is bottom left. Now I'm the tosser. This is the garbage disposal, this is the garbage truck. I'm trying to blame somebody else. I could have studied for my math test, but now I'm blaming you, my parent, because you didn't make me study. Or I'm blaming the teacher because it was a stupid test. Or I'm blaming the weather because I got snowed in. And I'm blaming, tossing my responsibility. And that's unhealthy because I'm not being honest. I'm not being truthful with it. And unless we think teenagers are the only ones that blame, we parents can do a lot of blaming as well.
Yeah.
You know, you're driving your mother crazy. It's all your fault. See, you hear the all your fault stuff. Okay, that's this part. Let's keep going. Now, I can't control it. That's in this right-hand column, but I'm trying to take ownership of it. This is the over-controller. This is the manipulator, because I can't control it, but I'm trying to own it. Or I may go well, I guess nobody around here loves me and cares and nobody wants to listen. I'll try to be the martyr. Some way or another, I'm trying to manipulate and control you. Sadly, in a lot of Christian circles, we put Christian parent in this box. This is the one that's grabbing for the control that's not theirs. And we think that's a better Christian parent. No, it's not. It's a manipulator. Well, we don't like that word. It's still a manipulator.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the grabber. And then I can't control it, bottom right quadrant, and I don't take the responsibility for it either. My hands are folded. It's not mine. If you were my son and you flunked your physics test, I would go, it's not my test, son. Sorry for you, but it's not my problem. Well, can't you at least call the teacher? No, it's not my problem. Yeah, well, it's not, and I'm folding because it's not mine to take. What happens is we often get impacted by things that aren't ours to control. And so we go, oh, since I feel the impact, I jump up here, this upper quadrant, and I try to take control of it because it impacts me and I don't like the impact. And that's why sometimes the folding is sometimes the hardest place for a parent to be. Let him deal with the consequences. He got caught drunk driving. Ouch. Yes, that may be embarrassing. Fold my hands. It's not my fault. I'm not going to bail him out. I'll be there. I'll be his encourager. I'll get, when he asks me your opinion, I'll give him my 2 cents, but it's not mine to fix for him.
One of your chapters deals with free will, and I love the title of it. You have the right to be stupid. Tell us about, that's really what you're talking about here.
It is, and it boils down to what I call the 3 rules of life. I mean, if rule number 1, we live and we die by our own choices. I mean, other people's choices, yes, have a huge impact on us, but bottom line, we live and die by our own choices. That's rule number 1. And of course, when I present this to a mixed group of parents and teenagers, the teenagers in the back going, yeah, it's my choice, let me do this. I tell the parents, okay, smile, because rule 2 and 3 are coming, okay? Rule number 2, it's in the form of a question. It's still a rule, though. Are you going to choose smart or are you going to choose stupid? And, well, I don't think that should be said. And I tell teenagers, you don't get to choose what's on the smart list or what's on the stupid list. Those lists have been pre-written by God first, okay, and society second over a long period of generations and histories and centuries. And oh, by the way, parking your new convertible car in the middle of a blizzard with the top down is a stupid choice. Mm-hmm. Not studying for your math test is a stupid choice. Here's the part though, as parents, your child has the right to be stupid. So do you as a parent, by the way. Mm-hmm. So do people you work with. And some people exercise that very, very well. Rule number 3, though, which says there's always somebody or some circumstance that's going to make your life miserable when you choose stupid. Stupid will come back around and bite you sooner or later. Yeah. It will. That's just the way God made the rules of the universe. It will come back and bite you sooner or later. Because, and this all comes out of Genesis chapter 3. I mean, we know God created the garden. It was perfect. So the garden is a perfect house. No dust, no mold, no nothing. A perfect parent, God. That'd be nice. 2 perfect children, Adam and Eve. And in this perfect world with a perfect parent and 2 perfect children, there was a rule. Don't eat of that tree or else you'll die. Now, we know on that day in chapter 3, God's all-knowing, all-present, all-powerful, all-seeing, all-everything. He watches Adam and Eve walk towards that tree. He's listening to their conversation. And the question I ask parents is, well, did he stop them? Of course, the answer is no. Yeah. Well, why not? Didn't he love them? Well, yeah. Didn't he care? Well, yeah, but why didn't he? Because part of being made in God's image is we have a free will. And for God to jump down and go, stop, 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 would have been taking his own image out of them. And God says, I will not do that. I will let them choose, even if it was foolishness, even if it hurt them. I'll make a way of redemption, yes, so I'm not going to give up on them, but I will let them choose. And as a parent, you are in that same place of letting your child choose, letting your teenager choose, even if it hurts them. And what I tell parents is, okay, your prayer for the week, God, how did you stand there and watch somebody you love hurt themselves? Teach me how to stand there and not become angry and bitter and walk away, or not try to over control and stop them. Teach me how to do that, please, because that's where you are as a parent a lot of times.
That's a real good analysis, and that really gives us a pause on how to connect with a teenager, and immediately looking to the Lord trying to connect with us. You mentioned the grid. You have the grid in the book here.
Yes, I do.
And so you can buy the book. Actually, you can buy the book through this video that we're doing, or also book just about anywhere, I'm assuming. Tim, is that right?
Christian booksellers can. Focus on the Family has an online bookstore. You can buy there as well. Okay.
And so the grid's in there. And then also, in addition to the grid, are various scenarios about the interaction that really can be helpful. And again, if you can smile at yourself, you can find yourself in the various scenarios as well.
Yes, you can. And anytime there's 2 people interacting, you're going to see a dance. And I talk about the 4 different dances there.
Yeah.
You know, if the teenager, for some strange reason, is in this upper corner of they're trying to take responsibility for their problem, whether they're doing it real well or not, but you're, as a parent, are trying to take responsibility for that same problem, you're going to butt heads. Yeah. These 2 people, upper corner, are both trying to control the same thing, and it's not going to work. Likewise, if they're trying to be the tosser and you're trying to be the grabber, ooh, there's no tension here. Mom, it's your fault. Yeah, okay, it's my fault, son. Yeah, Mom, it's your fault. It's my fault. He dumps, you swallow, because this is the garbage disposal. Now, here's the thing. There's no tension in the family. You're both sick, though. You're not healthy, either one of you. But there's no tension. Likewise, if the teenager or the child is trying to own it so they're trying to hold and you fold, yeah, mom, it was my fault. Yes, son, it's your fault. There's no tension. You're both healthy and good. Here's the grid that we try to strive for, that take responsibility, because so often what we see is though the teenager's trying to blame down here and the parents go, nope, it's not my fault. Yeah, it was your fault. Nope, it's not my fault. These two will not get along either.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's tension between the teenager and the parent, one or the other of you is not in a healthy box. Here, there's no tension. You're both sick. Okay, so it looks good on the outside, but it's not healthy at all. Here, he owns it and you let him own it. That's healthy, no tension. That's the combination. That's the dance that we're looking for. But anytime there's tension, somebody's in the unhealthy box. And so as a parent, be the first one to look at yourself going, wait a minute, am I in the healthy box or not?
As you're doing this, well, it's not my fault. Have you ever done, you'd be a great ventriloquist, you know. I can just see these different voices that you're doing, and you could have one, you know, in one. Have you ever done ventriloquism?
No, I haven't. When I worked at the residential treatment center, once a month, the families would come on campus, and I would actually, with masking tape out the grid on the carpet floor. I had a small, stick about this long, and I would actually put them in their places, and we would actually do role plays, physical role plays, and you see the parent and the teenager struggling and fighting with this stick, and then I would physically move them to where it would be a healthy spot so that they got the feel for, oh, that's what I'm doing. So I have done that, and it's very powerful with the parent as well as the teenager of moving them around those different grids.
Yeah. Well, you said that you recently closed your practice. Maybe you've got a whole new life ahead as a ventriloquist as you're doing this. Yeah,
something like that. Okay. I don't know if I'm a very good one or not. We'll see.
Well, under the topic of turning off the power struggle, which is in your book is built over main topics and then things within the topics. So under the topic, turning off the power struggle, you title one chapter, Rules of Engagement. As we close, give us a look at the rules of engagement in that fight.
Often we think rules are for behavior. They're not to curtail behavior. Rules are for safety's sake. And part of your job as a parent is to keep safety in and keep chaos out. So rules are for safety. So often we try to, our child is chewing gum, so we make a rule, no chewing gum in the house, to try to curtail behavior. No, you're training, you're teaching, you're modeling. That's to curtail and not alter behavior. Rules are for safety's sake. Physical safety, emotional safety, spiritual safety. And so when I work with parents, oftentimes I'll say, okay, you can only have 5 rules for the whole household. Not just for your teenager only, but everybody in the house has to abide by these rules. What could be only 5 and no subpoints? Because one time I had a family come in and they had 17 pages typewritten of the household rules. And so I would turn to one and say, okay, so on page 5, what's the 43rd rule? Of course, they didn't know what it was. I'm going, how do you expect your teenager to know? But 5 rules for safety's sake only. And think about what those are, because that's the big piece. Yes, safety is important. And as a parent, that's part of your key job, is to ensure safety for every member of the family, you as a parent as well, okay? So that's the rules of engagement. So that's what we set for safety's sake. Now within that, okay, how am I going to make this presentation? How am I going to talk to my son or my daughter about this? How am I going to let natural consequences fall on them? Because as they get older, we have less and less, in a sense, consequences that we can give a teenager. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right.
So we start scrambling for things. No, that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's because you let natural consequences take the hit rather than you trying to be the boss and control all the outcome.
The book is Losing Control and Liking It. That's on the parent, right? Losing Control and Liking It. How to Set Your Teen and Yourself Free by Tim Sanford, published by Tyndale. And as you say, Tim, you can get this book through Focus on the Family as well as booksellers really everywhere.
That's correct. That's correct.
Any closing comment that you want to make, either generally or about the book?
What I tell people is whenever you fight reality, you're going to lose. You really can't control your teenager. That's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to, you're ultimately going to lose. So you can influence. So focus on the influence you have, not on the control you don't. You'll be a lot better off and a lot less heartache as a parent.
I really recommend this book. It really is a great book, and very practical. And as I look through it, well, I don't think I'd want to go back through the teenage years, but in a way I kind of wish I could and correct some of the things. Tim, thank you so much for being with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for letting me.